Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Happy FriJAY, everybody. I hope you guys are all having a great day. How are you? It's good to see you guys. It feels like it was just FriJAY, but I think it was just Thursday, yesterday. Hope you guys are doing well. We have a good show for you today. We are going to be joined by our favorite lawyer, Dimitri. Let me know if I'm loud enough. Can you guys hear me loud enough? Or do I need to add a little more gain to it? Maybe that's a little bit better. It seems like I'm really low. Am I low? No minks caught today, Emily. That's good news. They're still on the run. They're still on the run. Brunch. Brunch is here in Florida for CrimeCon. I know I'm going to regret not getting tickets. I know I'm going to regret it. It's loud enough? Okay. All right, awesome. I'm going to regret this. So how many of you are at CrimeCon or are going to CrimeCon? Brunch Mom hasn't been here in forever. And look at, you know how long it's been? You don't even have a wrench anymore. You haven't been back since we cleaned house. Welcome back, Brunch. So Brunch is in Orlando, and I'm not going to be able to join her at CrimeCon, but maybe Brunch can give us some inside scoop. What do you think, Brunch Mom? Could we get some inside scoop if you see anybody impotent at CrimeCon? I'm reading the chat. I know it is super expensive, guys. I was looking at the CrimeCon pricing of the VIP tickets, $800, and you still don't get to like see all of the things. I think the most expensive one was like $1,200, and then if you wanted to go beyond that, you could contact them and go higher. You've had a lot going on. Amy Perry has 3 teenage boys. We understand that, don't we, folks? We understand that. Well, hopefully, Brunch Mom, you have a great time there, and it's worth the money. Jilly Bear, I saw those pictures as well. I got a kick out of that. I was like, I don't know if that's my scene. I don't know if I'm CrimeCon material. Yes, I'll text you, Brunch. I know you're here till Monday. What's up, Teresa? Creighton Waters. Yeah, I don't know who Creighton Waters is, but dude, that was funny. So, yeah, I was just watching. I was going to say, are you guys watching the Maya trial? I just want to make sure my audio is right for when he joins. You've spent that much for conspiracy conventions and UFO globalism. I would love to hear about. I didn't know you were like a UFO. I would love, love, love. Wait, Waters? Who's Waters? I don't know who that is. And I haven't watched the Netflix yet. I've just been watching the trial. Who's Creighton Waters? I don't know who that is. Oh, JLR's at CrimeCon? Jilly Bear, her husband said Jay is definitely CrimeCon worthy. So what I would like to do, hey Frank, what I would like to do is apply for the podcast row and like maybe get on, like that's what I'd want to do if I went there. You have to go to the lobby to get your food. Oh my God. Well, take us with you. Creighton is the prosecutor in the Murdaugh trial. See, I didn't follow that close. He's the one that played in the band? I cannot. How funny. How funny. And I saw that Carrie, oh, I can't think of her last name. I always forget her last name. But BTK's daughter, and I know she hates being called that, but I saw that she had a beer last night, and they made a big deal about that too. Amy Perry, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's very triggering. A lot of the cases that we're covering right now are very triggering cases. With very triggering. Is he the one that jumped in the air? That is so funny. I don't think Potato realized who that was. Or maybe she did. She kind of made a little meme out of that picture. I'll share it in Patreon. Potato made a meme. Potato. She flashed and made a meme. She's probably going to kill me. But I'll put it in Patreon.
I flashed and said, wow, pretty far out. I thought it was pretty far out.
Oh, Potato's here. I don't know who anyone is, dude. Well, apparently the guy jumping in the band Potato was the lead prosecutor in the Murdaugh trial. That is hilarious. What's up, Island Thrifts? Hello, Ellen G. Potato's your hero. She's my hero, too. Potato's a good egg. She's a good egg. All right. Well, we're going to be joined in about 20 minutes by Dimitri, our lawyer friend, Mr. Dimitri. And if you have any questions for him, I'm going to open up the Q&A in the chat area. And you guys can throw some questions in there if you have them as we go along through this. I made a presentation. You guys are going to love this. So if you have any questions for Dimitri, law, questions, our lawyer, you can go ahead, or questions for me, whatever the case may be. You can go ahead and put them in this Q&A section here. I'll show you how it works. In there if you have them as we start Q&A. Ask a lawyer. Unleash the lawyer. That's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be unleash the lawyers. And guess what, guys? I have some exciting news. So Dimitri actually wants to join us weekly. You heard me right. He loves you guys so much, and he's appreciated your support. And he's been reading the comments, and he said, I love your podcast, and your audience is amazing, and I would love to come on your show weekly. So we're going to have our own lawyer, our own criminal defense lawyer, who is a professor at the John Jay University in criminal justice, at our disposal weekly for any lawyer questions that we may have. Unleash the lawyers. It's amazing. Jilly Bear, I should try to get Peter Tragos, lawyer on sometime. I think that maybe he gets paid for his interviews. I'm not sure, though. But I do love my Dimitri, so we are going to embrace him. And if you guys can share his link in the chat and subscribe to his channel. He's got some pretty cool things on there. He interviewed the prosecutor in the O.J. Simpson trial just a few days ago, posted. There's good content out there. Just because it's not popping up in, your recommended, there are so many good podcasts out there that we miss because of that stupid algorithm, right? The algorithm doesn't always recommend the smaller channels, but he's got some good content, guys. You need to check it out. So thank you, Shell, for sharing that. So let's get into the first part of today's live. The first part is going to be Meet Frankies. The second part is going to be Russell Brand. And we're going to be talking about what in the world is going on with Russell Brand. I don't know a whole hell of a lot about Russell Brand, but what I have found, I don't need to know who he is. I don't need to know much about him. And you're going to be shocked at what's going on, and everybody should be aware of what's going on. So that's going to be the second part of our show. And the first part is going to be the Frankies. So let's roll into this J is for Justice presentation that was made specifically for y'all. All right, our first slide is Meet the Frankies. We've got Kevin Franke. He's a BYU engineering professor. He's 44 years old. And then on his flanked to his side is Ruby Franke. Y'all have seen her. She was a stay-at-home mom. Her parents are in Serbia on a mission right now. And her entire family are vloggers. I'm not sure if you guys knew that or not. That was something I didn't know in the very beginning. So interesting that her whole family are vloggers, and they have spoke out against this and said it's about time. You know, this is a long time coming. We've been reporting things for years, blah, blah, blah. So her parents are also in Serbia on a mission, and we haven't heard anything from them. Like, we don't know what they're even thinking. There's been no statements. This is the Franke home in Springville, Utah. So this is where the Franke family lived. This is not to be mistaken with the house where the children were found. This is the Franke family home. Millions of dollars. Millions. She was banking on this YouTube gig. Banking. The channel began in 2015. Now listen how quickly they grew. 100,000 subs in 1 year. I mean, that right there is incredible. Wow. 1 million by the second year. And by 2023, they had 2.3 million subs. So it's important to remember as well that they still continued to make money, even though they weren't making content anymore. So they stopped making content, and they were still raking in, ad revenue. But prior to that, they did get ad revenue. Thank you, Shell. They got ad revenue, sponsorships, and according to Ruby, they were given free clothes, cars, and vacations, etc., etc. Must be nice, right? I can tell you I've never gotten any of those things from YouTube, and I don't think I ever will. And Mormonism was definitely part of their brand. And what I learned from this is that Mormons don't typically take pictures of the temple. And I guess they had, the temple in the background in several photos. And I guess that's a no-no, that Mormons don't typically take pictures of the temple. So I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I did hear that along the road of watching things on this case. This is Ruby Franke's family. This is the Griffith family vloggers. So they are all social media influencers, so to speak. I've never heard of McMama. I've never watched a family vlog in my life. Never watched one in my life. This is my first experience with family vloggers, and I can't believe how many there are. I can't believe that this whole family is doing it. And then along the way in my research, I also found out that there are groups in Utah for family vloggers, for Mormon family vloggers. There's groups. They get together, they share show shit, they work on each other's shows. Whatever the fuck they do it together. So I'm wondering how many people the Frankies commingled with, so to speak, during their YouTube tenure. I haven't heard anybody talk about that. I haven't seen any other vloggers come forward. I haven't seen any family vloggers even speak out on this. Have you guys? Now that I'm thinking about it. Make sure you get your questions in the Q&A. Ask a lawyer. It can be about any legal question on any case we follow if you're unclear on something. Because we're also going to be talking about cameras in the courtroom with him today. So you don't have to stay specific to Ruby Franke. You can ask anything you want within reason. Here's Ruby Franke's parents. They left in July of 2022 for a Mormon mission in Serbia. And it is interesting to note that Ruby was not at their farewell. Oh, wow. Potato said, I heard the church has a budget to give family vloggers too, if they're showing the church in a good light. Apparently. Don't come for me. Fight me, she says. That's all allegedly. The meme she made is not allegedly. That meme is real and it's going in Patreon because it's hysterical. All right, so let's get into the evilness of this entire case. And I believe that this woman is the groundwork, whatever you want to call it, the base layer. She is all of those things. And this all stems from her because there's several others who have come out that have been a victim of Jodi Hildebrandt. So let's learn a little bit about Jodi. She's the founder of Connections Classroom, which she created with her friend Ruby. She is the oldest boy, Chad, his therapist, and the other boy, Bo's therapist. She is a former licensed mental health counselor for sex addiction and porn. And she was on the LDS family referral list. So the LDS church was like, oh, you got a problem with porn? Here's Jodi Hildebrandt's name and number. Her license was put on probation in 2012 because this bitch found out about, a husband's watching porn. And she went to the bishop of the church and told the bishop. And then she took it a step further, and he was a professor at BYU. She went to BYU and he lost his job. This woman is evil. And if you haven't seen her niece on the Mormon Stories podcast, you need to watch it. It's 3 hours and it's worth every hour. This woman is definitely worse than Ruby, in my opinion. This woman is dangerous. She abused her niece. And when her niece escaped, right, her niece had to escape. Her niece escaped and was homeless because of this woman. So later on down the road, when in 2012, when Jodi's license was suspended, she commented on a newspaper article. And she said, Jodi Hildebrandt is a monster. She's evil. She abused me. And this is not the last time you will see or hear Jodi Hildebrandt. Well, after that happened, Jodi Hildebrandt went out of the country. The heat was on. She left the country. So I hope and pray that no judge grants either one of them bond. Because we got Ruby's family in Serbia. We've got Jodi leaving the country over a comment from her niece. And the niece's dad is Jodi's brother. So the niece's dad called the niece, Jessie, and said, what are you doing? Why are you saying this about our family? This poor Jessie was shamed. after that. And Jody Bitchface left the country. Thank you, Kendi, for gifting 5 memberships and welcome new loungers. Okay, so also she becomes besties and business partners of Ruby, and she was teaching classes that Ruby and Kevin attended. So there we have the husband, Kevin. So when Ruby and Kevin bought their first home, this is a random fun fact, in 2011, they purchased it from the Mormon church who owned it at the time. So I don't know if that's normal for them to, purchase home, like the Mormon church purchases homes and sells them. I have no idea. But in 2011, they purchased it from the Mormon church who had owned it at the time. And then they made more money. So then they upgraded to the house that I showed you earlier. This is Miss Hildebrandt's home. And a little bit more about her. She is 54 years old. She divorced back in the 90s. I bet he is just thanking his lucky stars right now that he is not involved with this woman anymore. So, divorced in the 90s. She's Mormon. She's wealthy AF. She has a history of ruining families. And then I think I'm supposed to have another bullet point there. She's a therapist. Ruby's biz partner and founder of Connections. She has 2 known children. And her adult son got married in 2020 in the temple. So I wonder what kind of mother-in-law she is. That is a scary thought.
Yikes.
Very scary thought. Of her as a grandmother or mother-in-law. So let's get to the day of the incident. This is quotes from the court documents. Officers found that the victim's mother, Ruby Franke, had left her 3 children in the care of Jody Hildebrandt, one of the affidavits states. Officers also found that Jody Hildebrandt had posted several posts on social media and YouTube channels where she discusses mental health and family therapy. Upon arrival, officers found that a 12-year-old victim had ducked, and this is trigger warning material. If you haven't heard all these details, it's ugly, it's sick. Upon arrival, officers found that a 12-year-old victim had duct tape around their ankles and appeared to be emaciated because the victim was abnormally thin and weak. The affidavit continued to say that medical personnel removed the duct tape and located open wounds. The victim informed officers and medical personnel that the wounds were from the rope that was used to tie the victim to the ground, said the statement. The victim informed officers that Jody put the ropes on their ankles and wrists and that they used cayenne pepper and honey to dress the wounds. According to the affidavit, officers conducted a protective sweep and located one juvenile who was reluctant to speak with officers. They also identified a possible safe room in the basement that is locked, and it was, quote, unknown if anyone was inside. The affidavit ended with the officer's request to obtain any and all evidence relating to child abuse and access to the possible safe room to determine that no one else was inside. As if that's not shocking enough, I mean, there's more. It goes on. And I just took like some, basic parts out of here. And we are ready to, it's that time, guys. It's that time to unleash the lawyer.
Unleash the lawyers.
We are unleashing the lawyer. Everybody, welcome Dimitri.
Hi, guys. How's everybody doing?
They're doing great. And they were so excited to hear that you were coming on today.
So easy to fool people.
So how you doing today? Happy Friday.
I am doing well. Happy Friday to you too. Thank you for having me as always.
Yeah, yeah. We're just going over. I sent you those court docs for this case. We're just kind of going over like some key points.
Yep.
These two women. I don't know if you caught the gist of it. They're friends turned business partners. Might be more. Who knows? But this Jody, who's the counselor, she's known for tearing marriages apart when she's supposed to be giving them counseling. So what she would aim to do is tear the wife and husband apart, work the wife, get money out, get as much money as she could out of her, and then she'd break up their marriage and keep the wife on her payroll, so to speak, by telling the husband he's dangerous and he shouldn't be around his family and all these crazy beliefs and taking their religion and exploiting it.
Yep.
So we're going over right now the stuff that was found in the search warrant. But one question I have for you at this point is they both want obviously bond. And
Yep.
at first they were denied. Well, now we're waiting for a rescheduling for a bond hearing. What are your thoughts on these two getting bonded? Do you think that they will be treated differently based on that the kids were found at Jody's house versus Ruby's? Ruby wasn't even there. Do you think that there's going to be a difference in their bond consideration because of that?
It's possible, right? So what you're talking about now is the bail portion of the case, right? In the beginning of every case, you have a judge issue a set of conditions under which the defendants either remain out, as they say, pending the trial, or are in pending the trial. And one of those conditions is bail, right? Which can be satisfied via cash payments or other ways. Bond meaning bond is basically a security, right? Where you put something up and a bondsman will put up the money that you then have to give it back. And then there are also additional conditions, right? Things like orders of protection, right? Stay away directives, supervision, right? So it's possible that the court can fashion all of these different variables. Now, the primary consideration should be whether or not these folks will come back to court, right? The idea to impose these conditions is to make sure they come back to court.
Mm-hmm.
Now, many places around the country have done away with bail, right? There's bail reform, right? Because we don't like here in the U.S. this idea of tying money to freedom, right? Something kind of seems wrong about that. And it also flies in the face of things like due process because nobody's been adjudicated or convicted of anything yet, right? So it's possible that all of these things will take shape, right? And the nature and the seriousness of the offense in some places does matter as well. And obviously the allegations here are incredibly severe.
Mm-hmm. It's bad. It just keeps getting worse the more details we get. So we were looking at this. We were just going through their history and kind of just sorting through who they are and what's going on here. But this whole family are vloggers. It's crazy. I never knew that this was such a thing, But the
Family blogging?
family vlogging, I didn't know it was so big. I've never watched it.
I'm learning that a lot of these things are big.
Right? And it's like, and if you go back and watch her videos, which I've done videos on her clips, they're so disturbing. She deprived her kids of food. They'd have to earn food, and they had to earn to go to school. Her son wasn't humble, so he couldn't go to school. And it's like, food and school are like necessities for a kid. So for her to be using those necessity things is just it's so disturbing to me.
Well, it's one of those things, right? Parents are given the freedom to parent their kids, right? They have that right. And at what point can the government come in and tell you what you're doing is wrong?
True.
Clearly, if the allegations are terribly severe, then that's one thing. But you got to be careful when blurring those lines. Of course, deprivation of food and things of that nature can classify abuse or neglect depending on where you are.
Yeah.
But these questions are always real tough, right? Because the parents argue that it's my kid and I get to do what I want with my kid. But obviously, there have to be some limits to that.
And you know, you can
Uh,
take it a step further too and say, oh, well, it's YouTube and people may not be alarmed thinking that she's putting on an act, that she may not really be like that behind the scenes. But now we're finding out it was really bad behind the scenes, you know? And it,
well, that's why you'd hope police investigate these cases, right? And if it turns out to be nothing, then it's nothing and everybody's happy. But that's for sure one of the considerations.
yeah. So in this latest filing that we just got just the other day, yeah, she made them share a banana. She made them get in line and they each got a bite of the banana on a video. So the items that were retrieved from Jody's house, I think they mean Scotch tape, but they put Scotch tape and saran wrap, which I don't even want to know what they use saran wrap for. Papers, notes, a journal, which that'll all be interesting information. This is where it gets sick. 2 bowls containing a red liquid with a metal spoon. And we find out later that that was cayenne pepper and honey, and they were dressing the kids' wounds with this concoction. And then putting a bandage, like an ace bandage, over it, and then ankle socks. And the kid that escaped was in his socks when he ran over to the neighbor. Then 3 sets of rope, brown and white rope, 2 handcuffs, 3 I think it's carabiners, how you say that, those clips for mountain climbing, and then 2 used medical gauze dressings near the cayenne pepper and honey. Oh,
You know, it's so dangerous to look at this stuff at this point because context is so important, right?
Mhm.
As this case moves forward, and reading a list of items isn't particularly helpful in terms of what'll happen in the case, right? Because what'll happen is what's happening, right? Where conclusions are being drawn, not necessarily because this is weird stuff. I can't imagine what most of this stuff would be used for, even.
It's very
You know,
weird.
it just,
It's very
yeah.
weird. So, all right, so let's move on to the next one. So they also requested any and all cell phones, audio recordings, computers, tablets, laptops, surveillance footage, doorbell cameras, and any other communication device used to send texts, emails, or any audio-visual communications. So they took 4 Apple MacBook computers and 3 Apple iPhones. And then I looked up cayenne pepper, and it says that it has been used for medicinal purposes, which I did not know that because I thought of pepper and I thought of hot. So it's good that we research beyond, you know, like you said, this could be dangerous, right? Like you read cayenne pepper, and if you don't know, it may not burn, but it should not be used on cracked skin or open wounds, it says. But it is a medicinal thing. So they can argue that fact, can they not?
Absolutely. And look, they can the primary overarching argument will be what is a reasonable parenting style versus what is abuse, right? And all of these things come into play. Doing something to treat your kid for something that then turns out to be harmful isn't a crime, right? What is a crime is intent, right? Intent is what separates these things. If they were doing any of these things with the intent to harm these kids, that's a different story. So that's why I said the list of items in and of itself is not particularly helpful in figuring out their degree of culpability, you know?
Interesting. See, and that's why your view is so different because we're like knee jerk emotional reaction. We think of kids, we think of all these things we're looking at and what we're reading, and we don't think that along that broad, you know, that you can use. I mean, because we've all done it. I mean, I've used those stupid ear candles. What if you did that and you hurt your kid? You know, should your kid be taken away, like you said?
Yeah, and it's something to keep in mind, right? Because the way most places are structured is that if a kid makes a complaint, right, whatever government entity is in charge of investigating these complaints must address it, right? Because they can't just say, well, this is something that sounds unreasonable and therefore we're not going to pursue it. Because if it is something bad and improper, then that can be difficult, right? So if and when they investigate it, it's sometimes tough to tell what is child abuse and what is not. And applying a homemade remedy, applying some medicinal mechanism that you heard about online or from family that ends up being harmful isn't necessarily um, criminal or improper or sufficient to have your kids taken away or sufficient to have access limited with your kids, right? So it's important to figure out what was in the heads of these folks.
What was going
and
on.
that we'll only find out later on.
Yeah.
Can't find that out now.
Yeah, for sure, because we haven't heard anything from them. Nothing.
And that's the right, and their lawyers are doing the right thing by telling them not to speak to anybody.
Well, speaking of their lawyers, let's unleash their lawyers. Let's take a look at their lawyers. This is interesting. Okay. So Kevin is the husband of Ruby. He's the dad of these 6 children of the 8 passengers YouTube channel. And Kevin and Ruby split 14 months ago. So he moved out of the house. We're not sure exactly what went down. His lawyer says it was a difference in parenting and dynamics. So very broad. But Kevin has been gone for 14 months, and Kevin has not seen the children in the time he's been gone. And I found out recently it's because this Jody, who was their therapist, told him that he needed to stay away from the family, that his presence right now was dangerous because whatever reason she gave him. And he listened. I don't understand any of this. I don't know. I don't understand men that can be manipulated in this fashion. It blows my mind, especially when it comes to your 6 children, that you just, okay, I'm dangerous, I'm just going to go. Weird. So anyways, this is Kevin's lawyer, Randy Kester, and he's defended several high-profile clients, and most recently Gary Coleman. And I didn't have time to look up what Gary Coleman did this time, so I'm not sure what he defended him for. But Ruby's lawyers are Lamar Winward and Caleb Katam. And I just want to get your insight on the defense lawyers, because everyone's going to come at Mr. Winward and Mr. Katam for defending Ruby, right? Because she's a POS and she's an abuser. Can you give us some insight on how you wish the public would more so view defense lawyers? Like, is there anything that's ever bothered you that the public maybe insinuates or assumes with a defense lawyer?
So there are 2 answers to the question that you're providing me, right? One is the legal answer, which is simple and not very compelling. And then there's the moral answer, which I guess is the one that you're looking for, right? First of all, Gary Coleman, I think, has been dead for some time. So I don't know when this representation took place. Couldn't have been that recent.
Oh, he's dead. I didn't even know he died. Well, I guess that was the latest high-profile client that he defended then. Yeah, someone else in chat said he was dead.
Yeah, I thought he was. Anyway. So, look, the legal answer is pretty simple, right? The Constitution demands zealous representation. The ethics rules in the states demand zealous representation. The ethics rules not only allow but encourage you to represent folks that are not very proudly looked upon, right? And the rules also say that representing a client is not an endorsement of the client's beliefs and understandings. All right. And we justify that by saying that if somebody is representing somebody that is accused of doing something really, really bad, right, then it becomes a slippery slope. And before you know it, the government has all the power and you need somebody to push back, right? So that's the easy answer. The easy answer is only good defense lawyers can hold the government to its standard. And if you start taking away representation from some people who you consider bad, it becomes a real fast nosedive to the folks that maybe are not as bad, and then it becomes slippery and slippery and slippery.
Yeah.
Now,
go ahead.
The moral answer is different, right? The moral answer is that in my experience, there are very few things in life that are black and white. There's a whole lot of gray, right? And it's easy to look at somebody and look at either what they've done or what they've been accused of doing and say, well, this is somebody who is so horrible that there is nothing that you could do or say that could make me feel differently about that person, and that's fine. But in my experience, dealing with people who are accused of crimes, and I have considerable experience, more than many, right? There are very few people out there who are in and of themselves evil, right? Who exist for the purpose of hurting other people. They exist, but it's rare. Oftentimes, you have people that do things that may be evil because of something, right? And if you just kind of throw those people to the side and throw them in jail or do whatever you have to do without jumping into why what happened, then all you're doing is allowing these kinds of things to continue, right? It's important to make sure that we figure out why people do these things, not just that they're bad people. And I don't know if what happened here, I don't know if she's guilty of this crime, and I don't know what'll happen at a trial. She's presumed innocent, right? All those things apply. And so it'll be interesting to see what the facts turn out about these folks, because the easiest thing to do is to read an affidavit and say, oh, these are such terrible people, we have to get rid of them. But that's not always the best thing to do.
It's really tough, though, in a case like this, though, when you have rope around, and you have children that have these, these wounds and escaping from houses. And in in an average case, I completely agree with you. I think these are more. This case is unique, in the sense.
That's great that you say that, right? This case is unique because it involves children, right? We can all agree that that's a pretty, that's something that is a big deal, right? What about folks that have to represent accused terrorists, right, who have killed dozens of people? Or, it's very hard when you get into the area of distinguishing what crime is worse. So that's the real debate.
So that's not how you look at things. You don't look at like what crime is worse. You kind of look at you have to look at it on each case basis because of evidence, right?
Yes, and from a legal perspective, yes. From the other perspective, it's you have to try to humanize people. Because again, generally speaking, things happen for a reason. They don't just happen. And if you humanize somebody, you can figure out why they did what they did, and that's helpful for everybody.
For sure. I mean, that's why they study serial killers and try to get into their heads, right? So that they can pick these guys out before they go on their killing sprees. They can kind of stop them after, hopefully, before they commit any crimes, but,
Yeah, and I'm sure that it has helped in the past.
I was interested to find out that they actually put together a task, like, I don't know if you call it a task force, but a Ted Bundy, like all these investigators from all the different states that Bundy committed his crimes in, they all got together and had they analyzed everything about him and had this huge report. And I'm like, oh my God, I saw it online. I'm like, holy crap, there's so many pages, but it was so interesting to go through. There was so many things in there that I didn't know about Ted Bundy's crimes. And we think we know it all because it's, been talked about for so many years. But there's so many details that we have no clue about. And that they're studying all those things.
Yeah, and if you what is your goal? If your goal, not as a lawyer, I'm talking about as a member of the general public. As a lawyer, your duties are different. But as a member of the general public, if your goal is to stop this kind of stuff from happening moving forward, and you'll never be able to stop it entirely, obviously, then it's important to dive into those details. That's all I'm saying. That there's just no way around that, right? Irrespective of how heinous and difficult all these crimes may be, you will not fix it unless you get to the root of it,
right.
Like anything in life.
Right. Can I link what, Emily? You'd love to read what? What was I talking about? Okay, so we've got a couple more slides, and then I've got some questions from the chat for you.
Sure.
So this is the kind of allegedly stuff that's going on out there. That the talk is that they had swinging and sex parties. A former family vlogger and YouTuber who claims to know the Griffith family, which is Ruby's siblings, they're all vloggers, has stated that allegedly he attended swinging, swapping adult parties where some of the sisters were there. He did not say who. He said that someone in the group claimed the whole family participates in swapping husbands, implying incestuous behavior. He also said there was another act involving a dog licking peanut butter off one of the other family vloggers' parents, which I don't pay any attention to this. This is more fuckery. Ruby taped the windows to cover them. The children were witnessed. This is true from a neighbor. The children were witnessed doing chores for hours outside in 100-degree heat, and that they were left in the home for long periods of time. So these two slides, to me, I'm trying to like weed that shit out because none of this is fact. And even the chores thing can be misconstrued. So I want to stick with what can be verified, in the court docs.
And by the way, it's the answer is nothing is verified right now, right? You just have, I guess, levels of reliability, right? But right now, nothing is proven, let's say, right? It's important to always, like, I keep saying this, but it's important to always come at it from that angle, right? You have to come at it from that angle, and it becomes a lot easier to conduct this kind of analysis internally.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's see. I think that's all of them. So did you have anything you wanted to add about any of this affidavit stuff?
No, you went through some of the points that I saw earlier. It's just what's important to remember about an affidavit is that it's in these kinds of cases when the hearings happen and all this stuff is flushed out, things may change. I don't know if it will, but it's that's important to keep in mind.
Okay. All right. The first question we have is, hang on.
I don't see the comments. I think I did last time.
I know because I'm not live. I went live a different way this time. I kind of worried that would confuse you.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
I
All
just
right.
did it a different way.
Silence the
Sure.
lawyers.
Okay, so Meg wants to know, why isn't their father being charged for neglect since he hasn't visited them since he left the home, and he was aware of the abuse tactics Jody was using, prior to him leaving. So the question is basically, Kevin Franke, he's got his lawyer, he's attending custody hearings, he's trying to get his kids back. There's been no charges against him. He says, I wasn't there. I left. I had no idea what was going on, and I didn't talk to my kids. So what can he really be held responsible for other than maybe being a deadbeat dad by taking off on his kids?
Being a bad dad is not a crime, right? Now, what he did may become a crime if it comes to light that he knew something and didn't do something about what he knew, right? But that hasn't come to light yet. Being a bad dad and leaving your kids isn't necessarily a crime, right? And I don't know if he was a bad dad. I'm just saying that leaving your kids isn't necessarily a crime. If you do things that amount to abuse and neglect, then it becomes a crime. But other than that, it's not. You can't presume that somebody knew something before they left somewhere and then draw that connection.
So if they eventually, let's say down the road, they determine that she was, what she was doing prior to him leaving was abusive to the kids, and he was living in the home, could they charge him with something then? And do you think that they would?
If they determine that there's probable cause, then they could. Whether or not they would is a different story, because then you get into the whole world of prosecutorial discretion, right? Prosecutors have the discretion to make those calls. And who knows, if they think that he knows something, maybe they'll use him as a witness, right? You never know.
Do you think
that becomes?
Do you think it
Go ahead.
says something now that he hasn't been charged as of yet?
It could say numerous things. Number one, it could say they don't have the evidence. Number two, it could say they may have some evidence, but they don't think it's sufficient to pursue a crime. And number three, you never know. Maybe maybe he's cooperating or talking. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, because his lawyer did a couple interviews, so he's been speaking with the media, and his lawyer said that they questioned him initially and that they haven't talked to him again. So then the question was asked to his lawyer, does Kevin expect to be a witness in this case then. And he said that they have not mentioned that to him. So what do you think that means, if anything?
Well, what it means right now, the only thing it actually means is that for whatever reason, prosecutors aren't prosecuting him. Now, we can all try to hypothesize as to why that is, right? Again, will he be used as a witness? Even if it's not to the actual allegations, there may be testimony he can provide as to patterns that were engaged in the household, right? It's possible he'll be used as a witness, but right now he's not being prosecuted. And probable cause, like I said last time, is a very low standard. So if they felt there's a reason to arrest him, then they could have by now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just interesting. And his lawyer kind of got a puzzled look when he was asked that question, if he's going to be considered a witness. And he got kind of like, well, they haven't said that. Like, they haven't said anything. So I don't know if he's kind of wondering, is something going to come up where he is going to be facing some charges? But I guess we have to wait and see.
Yeah, he may not know, and the prosecutors may not know.
Right.
We are still pretty early in this thing.
Very early, yeah. Very early, and I'm sure there's a lot to go through. Let's see other questions we've got. Casey Marie says, "Do you think Jody and Ruby will get life?" Now, I don't know what they're even up against, to be honest with you.
Well, in order for them to get life, they would have to be sentenced. In order for them to be sentenced, they have to be convicted. I don't know if these are life eligible crimes even. So the answer is I don't know. And then depending on where you are in the country, you have things called consecutive sentences versus concurrent sentences. And, that's a real complex question that can't be even debated now. It's just
too soon. So it's 6 felony child abuse charges they're both charged with.
Right. And felony, there are various in New York. They have A1 felonies, and then they have E felonies, and
there's different levels. Yeah.
And it's just
technical,
impossible.
Technical.
It's technical, particularly prior to a conviction. I mean, once the conviction comes down, then you can at least try to draw some opinions from it. But for now, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. Thank you for answering those questions. I have a question for you. And it's about a different case. It's about the Delphi case again. And it's about every case. It's about cameras in the courtroom. So this is coming up. We have a case that we're following in Idaho where they don't want cameras. We've got Delphi where Richard Allen is saying, his defense team is saying, hey, Indiana had a ban. So they used to have a ban, no cameras allowed at all. And they've lifted that ban. So his defense lawyers filed a motion explaining every reason why they want cameras in the courtroom for transparency and all this stuff. And I know there's arguments for both sides. Some people say, some things wouldn't happen in a courtroom if it wasn't for the camera. There's theatrics. The OJ trial is a good example of people think that if there was no cameras, there could have been a different outcome. What are your thoughts on not only that, because I know you've talked to the prosecutor in the OJ trial, but what are your thoughts on that trial specifically with the cameras and all the other trials that are going on out there?
Here's the issue with cameras in the courtroom. Here's the issue that every judge has to decide, right? One thing that judges hate to have happen is they hate to have cases reversed on appeal, right? That's never fun if you're a judge. It doesn't happen often at all, but it's not fun. And when you have cameras in the courtroom, you run into a few problems, particularly these days with social media and other things, right? We have, obviously, there's a right to the press here in the U.S., right? Freedom of the press. And the press has a duty, just like members of the general public do, to come into courtrooms and observe proceedings. Now, the other flip side of that is that the whole criminal justice process, that whole spectacle, let's call it, that is a trial, has in place, and it's all happening. Maybe people that are watching don't see it, but there are safeguards in place to protect the defendant from being prejudiced, right? That's why, for example, you see in other countries, defendants are tried behind cages. We don't have that here, right? Here in the U.S., defendants aren't permitted to be tried in their prison gear, right? You'll never see a defendant at a trial in a prison outfit, right? There's a reason why all those things exist, because what you want to prevent from happening is for a juror to look at a defendant and determine guilt prior to hearing evidence. And the reason for that is that the system is designed to make sure that the jury focuses in on the relevant facts. And when you have cameras in the courtroom, particularly if you have a jury that's not sequestered and things of that nature, which happens almost never, right? If you have cameras in the courtroom, you have the potential that the defendant will, via the jury, be impacted in a negative way that has nothing to do with the case. And especially, again, these days, people can play around with imagery and videos and all this other stuff. And so that's the primary concern when it comes to cameras in the courtroom. The question is, will the defendant be improperly harmed? Right? And depending on how a judge sees it, that's the kind of controlling question. And it should be, really.
What do you personally think about cameras in the courtroom?
I think it's fact specific. I think some cases are different than others. But again, if you have a case where you have a camera in the courtroom and the footage or the stream or whatever has a low tendency to impact members of the jury, that's one thing. If you have a sequestered jury, which is when a jury is essentially isolated from the general public, that's another thing, right? You got to be real careful before you allow that kind of thing. In the federal courts, they don't allow it at all.
Not at all, yeah.
In the state courts, they do allow it depending on where you are and the case. So it's a delicate question. And, in the early 90s, whether it was OJ or Pamela Smart or other early cases where you had these things happen, the media wasn't the same as it is now. Here, that potential for prejudice these days is so much heavier.
So, really, you think so? Based on just because of social media? Because I think, okay, let me give you my thought on it as a layperson. I feel like social media puts out so much fake news, and there's so many different ways they can manipulate photos, information, news reports. I mean, they can alter clips of videos and everything. If there was one camera with one view, not zooming around, not looking at, zooming in on anybody in particular, but just one view where everybody, because then if you see something fake on social media, you can revert back to that and say, no, that did not happen because I watched the trial and here's that part where that happened. You would have like something factual to reference when you're coming across the news reports, because if you just have a bunch of reporters, I feel like I'm going to get that reporter's take on what they heard and what they saw. I want to be able to see that for myself and be able to, get my own thoughts and see how the process works. Does that make sense?
It does. And look, a lot of defendants are for cameras in the courtroom, right? Because that way prosecutors may behave themselves better and everybody knows that they're being watched, let's say, right? And so sometimes defendants want that. They think that the process will run fairly if that's the case. What you're saying makes sense as well. There's a whole sector of the country that isn't as sophisticated in social media, right? If they see something, I don't think they'll necessarily start cross-referencing with what they saw on TV and so on and so forth, though it's possible, I guess. This is an entirely fact-specific question. It really is. There's no way to address it en masse because every case is different and every case is different in its breadth,
So specifically in the Idaho case, I know the reasons that both sides have stated for no cameras. The prosecution stated sensitivity of information and witnesses, of testimony and witnesses. And then the defense says it's, because they were zooming in on his fly or whatever. So, with that being said, do you think that I mean, in your opinion, does that sound like those sound like justifiable reasons? Because I've seen them move the camera for witnesses and not show them. I've seen them, make a stationary camera where no one can zoom. What are your thoughts on that?
All of those reasons are good because it's look, every side is trying to protect its information, right? The defense lawyers are trying to protect the defendant. Prosecutors are trying to protect their information, their evidence, their witnesses, so on and so forth. Um, there is a real strong presumption, right, in the U.S. for freedom in courtrooms, for freedom of the press. So if you're going to limit that, you better have strong reasons for it. But when somebody's freedom is on the line, maybe it's better to err on the side of caution. Though, look, a lot of folks' trials are televised, and there's no evidence that impacted the trial negatively, and it's factually based.
How would it affect it negatively, though? Like, I get in OJ because he was a star and everybody knows who he is. But in this case, no one knows who Brian Koberger is, and most people don't care. So why are they so hell bent on closing the proceedings?
Well, when you say nobody knows, maybe not as many people as knew OJ, but a whole lot of people know him that wouldn't otherwise know him now,
True.
right? And you don't know when it comes to stuff like this, people have real strong feelings. And people can reach out to jurors, people can try to impact a verdict. There are a lot of considerations. There are a lot of reasons why this can turn negative. But that's not to say it shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested in how the judge is going to rule on this. I really am because, just reading the motion for Richard Allen, all the reasons that his lawyers listed were reasons that how I feel. And they were basically speaking from the public, how the public thinks of cameras in the courtroom. So it'll be interesting to see how the judge in Idaho rules, over this situation, because we had a similar case in Idaho. We ended up getting audio only. So it was like it was kind of weird, we listened to it, you really want to see the people, but
Yeah,
we'll take what we can get. I mean, I'll take audio over nothing. So
right.
I appreciate your insight on that. If you don't mind, there's a couple more questions that trickled in.
Not at all.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so Emily Elizabeth, going back to the Franke case, will the sisters be charged if it turns out that they knew the kids were being abused? Could they be charged?
Those are different questions. Will they and could they be?
Yeah, will they? We can't answer that. So could they be charged?
Well, they could be charged if there's probable cause, and probable cause means nothing, right? So if there's some indication, some reason that law enforcement can articulate that can connect them to the crime, draw that connection, then law enforcement can prosecute. But that is different, as is the question with the husband. That is different than why they should prosecute and whether or not they will, because there are other considerations that go into those kinds of decisions.
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, we have to figure out what was even going on, in all reality. We see videos, but I'm telling you, a lot of YouTube channels are fake. And they do things to be outrageous and to get views. And that's why I just think we have to be careful, because videos aren't always reality either.
Right.
I mean, I'm not ignoring the fact of what what these kids went through. I'm definitely not downplaying that. And that's where I think people need to understand that we have to wait for all of the facts, because I watch so many YouTubers. I mean, you guys, we watched AWP and he ended up being a pedo, and we had no idea. You have no idea what's going on behind the scenes with these YouTube channels. They put on one show and it could be totally opposite behind the scenes. So I don't know. I think that we have to wait and find out who, with this latest thing that were found in Jody's house, we don't know what the hell was going on, how long those kids were there, when Ruby last saw them. We don't know any of those questions yet. And those are all important questions.
Exactly.
And I think people tend to think that, like, oh my gosh, you're defending them and you're victim shaming, if you tend to take in a broad point of view on everything.
No, it's not. It's not about victim shaming. It's about, at the end of the day, this whole proceeding is designed to find the truth, to find what happened. And it's just dangerous to look at only allegations and draw that conclusion, even though the allegations may be horrifying, right? And as human beings, we're compelled to empathize. It's not that black and white. You have to make sure that you rely on that presumption of innocence. It's not just kind of a legal cliche.
Mhm.
It's a real thing.
Yeah. I like that you bring that us back to that. Why would the prosecution not want cameras in the Brian case? We already kind of answered that. Um, will the accusations made by Ruby and Jody about the son S.A.ing his siblings and others be addressed? Okay, so Ruby's attorneys filed a motion, or no, in her hearing, I guess she went on a tirade in the custody hearing, this Ruby did, and stated that her children were essaying, her oldest boy was essaying the other kids, or one of the kids was essaying the other ones. I mean, all of that is going to have to come out at the trial, correct?
Right.
Because we're not going to know the
Yes.
details of any of that. It's just because those are closed hearings too. So it's hearsay. We're hearing it from someone who attended this hearing. So we're not even sure the context or anything like that.
Yeah, unless there's some filing in court, it's gonna have to wait just a bit.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really a sick case. But let's see if we got any others before I let you go and get back to your day. Okay, so one more question, and I'm curious with this one. So as far as an alibi, I know we talked about that. Was it yesterday? It was just yesterday.
A few days
A
ago.
couple
I don't know
days
if it was
ago.
yesterday.
Wednesday. It was Wednesday.
Maybe Wednesday.
Will the court ask for specifics to BK's driving around alibi? So Brian Koberger said he was driving around during the murders. Will they ask for details? Seems like the Idaho law asked for a detailed alibi when accepting it. What do you know about that?
Well, as a defense lawyer, if you have to conduct an internal balance, right? Do you give all the details now, to the extent that you have them, in hopes that prosecutors will drop the case? Because if you give all the details and the prosecutors don't drop the case, now you've given them your theory and you limit yourself down the line. So it's just a legal strategy move that is made in every case where an alibi defense is at
But why
stake.
would he even bring up the alibi if he didn't want to share it?
So again, in many states, you have to bring it up early in order to be able to use it later.
Oh, I think you're right. I think that's the case. I think they did say that was
Yeah.
why it was brought up, and then he kept postponing. But it makes sense what you're saying, because if you put out your alibi, then the prosecutor knows exactly where you're saying you were, and can, has tons of time, maybe even years, to work through that.
Right. And people say, well, if you're not lying, it doesn't matter. But people don't always lie. People sometimes forget and make mistakes and other things. And so, it's a strategy decision, like so many in this process.
All right. Well, I will stop there. I have so many more questions, but I let everybody know that you are willing to come on here weekly, and everybody's super excited for that.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm ready to
We're
go.
calling it Unleash the Lawyer.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you so much, Dimitri, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend,
Thank you.
and we will
Thank you.
talk soon.
Same to you. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right. See ya.
Unleash the lawyers.
Oh my gosh. So how awesome is that? Okay, so I hope he answered some of your questions that you had. I think that you have to remember, when we hear from a lawyer, it's factual. They stick to the facts. They're not thinking from the emotional place that we're always, we're coming from, especially when it comes to children. But just so you know, guys, he's going to be here. He's going to be popping in every week. So if you have any questions that come up during the week about any of these cases, write them down, and then you can put them in the Q&A section of the chat, and we can answer. Hello, my wonderful and beautiful and lovely Auntie Cheryl. It is so wonderful to see you here. And I just want you to know that I love you. I just love you. So, all right, let's move into part 2 of our live today. Part 2, we're going to be talking about Russell Brand. I'm so glad you caught it too. Jammers. You guys are awesome. So I want to play this just to conclude the Jody shit because she's just so annoying.
I was a hugely disconnected, selfish, aggressive, neglectful mother.
Entitled.
Jody fixes her. She corrects her. Corrects her. Entitled.
I was a hugely disconnected, selfish, aggressive, neglectful mother.
Entitled.
Oh my God. If that doesn't give you some thought to or some insight to these dynamics, holy shit. Weird. All right, let's get into our first story. So we're gonna get kind of deep here, guys. This is gonna be little edgy. This is gonna be a little bit edgy. Let's get our article up here. We're moving into Russell Brand. Say what you will about the guy personally. I'm just going to say I'm coming at this. I don't know much about him personally. I know he was married to Katy Perry. I know that he's very eccentric. I know that he's spoken out a lot on the government and things that are going on in the world. But he was dumped. Okay, so now mind you, he hasn't been charged with anything. He faces a police investigation and a probe by the Charity Commission. So they're investigating him. Russell Brand had his YouTube advertisements taken away, monetization gone. His book publisher dumped him. His agent dumped him. And he was discarded by charities just over allegations. How can you ruin and take away someone's income over this? Charge him, right? Okay, what gets worse? Potato? Actually, I'm going to, hang on. And thank you guys all for giving Dimitri such a warm welcome. It's so nice of you. All right, so here is the link. If anybody wants to come up and talk about this. But this is all this stuff's going on. YouTube suspended the advertisements, and that was his main revenue stream. 6 million subs. And if you look at this photo here and the titles of the videos that he's been doing on YouTube, you'll see he may have struck a chord. And the reason I say that is because we all know his topics are... Let's get rid of that. It's giving me anxiety. The Daily Mail is so busy. An allegation from 2003. So if we go here, and I'm not saying that this guy hasn't said or done inappropriate things. I think that's what he's known for. So like I see every day these articles coming out. Oh, this came out now. And it's like, yeah, it came out now. Yeah, it came out now. But check this out. The Daily Beast reports the deep state didn't frame Russell Brand, you idiots. So these articles, these two articles I'm about to show you, came out at like almost at the same time. Like they crossed paths, basically. So the Daily Beast is here telling you the deep state didn't frame Russell Brand, you idiots. But then the Post Millennial shared this. The UK Parliament sends letters to social media platforms demanding the demonetization of Russell Brand. I don't care for him either. I've never watched him. I don't like people that are outlandishly sexual like that and make people uncomfortable. I don't like that. But that's what he's known for. But right here, we have two completely opposite things. And this, to me, tells me right here. The UK Parliament, now get this, it wasn't just to Rumble, but they sent letters to Elon Musk. They sent a letter to Elon Musk. The UK Parliament sent letters to TikTok and Rumble expressing concerns that comedian Russell Brand could be profiting off the platforms. Here's an excerpt from the letter. I am writing concerning the serious allegations regarding Russell Brand in the context as a user of TikTok with more than 2.2 million followers on the platform. The day after TikTok sent the letter, Rumble received a similar letter from Lineage noting Brand's 1.4 million followers on the platform and asking whether Rumble intends to join YouTube in suspending Mr. Brand's ability to earn money on the platform. Since when do we have the government asking social media platforms to cancel someone? In what world is this right? In what world is this okay? Because UK, the last time I checked, Prince Andrew was visiting Epstein Island. So was the UK all about canceling everyone who went to Epstein Island? I don't follow celebs either. But guess what? Anybody who's on social media, this could happen to. But it's important to see where this is rooted from. Because if the UK is going to say, hey, Rumble, hey, X, you guys need to take these guys off your platform and stop paying them money. Prince Andrew, here's Potato. Prince Andrew has accusations and he was given an interview to speak for himself. This is nuts. But this is proof right here that the government is getting involved in these things if they don't like you or what's being said. But the Daily Beast wants you to think that, no, you idiots, look, the deep state didn't frame Russell Brand, you idiots. And really, I was going to dive deep into all these accusations. I don't even want to. Let's read this letter. This is sent to Dr. Theo Bertram. And by the way, Rumble and TikTok told the UK to kick rocks. They were like, FDO, no, we're not. We're not banning him. Fuck off and die. I mean, this is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen. I thought it was bad when, Bill Cosby had the accusations, But this, he hasn't even had criminal charges pressed against him. This is allegations. He lost all of his revenue over allegations. And I don't care if you hate him or love him. This could happen to anybody. I am sick of it too, Cheryl. Let the law handle it. You know what's scary though, Casey? Russell Brand, she said, seems way creepier than Danny Masterson. Just my opinion. You know what? I disagree, and you want to know why I disagree? And I'm just respectfully disagreeing. Masterson, we never would have guessed it. We never would have guessed it. Those are the ones that are so scary to me, the ones that come across innocent and get all this fame and, fortune and interviews, and the cameras are taking pictures, all this shiz. Russell Brand was outwardly eccentric. Oh, Potato, we'll have to do another panel with you. I really wanted Potato to come up. I think Masterson is worse too. Because, you know what? He's been convicted. But here's the letter. Dear Theo, I am writing concerning the serious allegations regarding Russell Brand in the context as user of TikTok with more than 2.2 million followers on the platform. The culture, media, and sport is raising questions with the broadcasters who previously employed Mr. Brand or production companies who employed him to examine both the culture of the industry in the past and whether that culture still prevails today. Although Mr. Brand is no longer appears on television, he now has a follower base on social media, including TikTok, where this weekend he republished his preemptive response to the accusations made against him by the Sunday Times and Channel 4's dispatches. So they want him deplatformed because he responded and stood up for himself.
What?
While we recognize that TikTok is not the creator of the content published by Mr. Brand, and his content may be within the community guidelines, so they're admitting he's not outside of your community guidelines because he hasn't been convicted of a crime. He hasn't been charged with a crime. He's well within your community guidelines, but we still want you to deplatform him. While we recognize that TikTok is not the creator of the content published by Mr. Brand, and his content may be within the community guidelines set out by the platform, we are concerned that he may be able to profit from his content on the platform. They want to take all his money. They're concerned he's going to keep making money. We would be grateful. I hope he sues the fuck out of them. We would be grateful if you could confirm whether Mr. Brand is able to monetize his TikTok posts, including his videos relating to the serious accusations against him. Because God forbid he get to respond to them on his own platform and respond and defend himself.
Oh my God. God forbid, one comment.
We would be grateful if you could confirm whether Mr. Brand is able to monetize his TikTok posts, including his videos related to the serious accusations against him, and what platform is doing to ensure the creators are not able to use the platform to undermine the welfare of victims of inappropriate and potentially illegal behavior. Potentially illegal. Potentially. We're asking for him to not make any money because he could potentially have committed illegal behavior. We should have kept Dimitri on for this. I just think it's horrible. This pissed me off. So here's Rumble. Rumble responded. You ready? Today we received an extremely disturbing letter from a committee chair in the UK Parliament. While Rumble obviously deplores sexual assault and all serious crimes, and believes that both alleged victims and the accused are entitled to a full and serious investigation, it is vital to note that recent allegations against Russell Brand have nothing to do with content on Rumble's platform. Just yesterday, YouTube announced that based solely on these media accusations, it was barring Mr. Brand from monetizing his video content. Rumble stands for very different values. We have devoted ourselves to the vital cause of defending a free internet. meaning an internet where no one arbitrarily dictates which ideas can or cannot be heard, or which citizens may or may not be entitled to a platform. We regard it as deeply inappropriate and dangerous that the UK Parliament would attempt to control who is allowed to speak on our platform or to earn a living from doing so. Singling out an individual and demanding his ban is even more disturbing, given the absence of any connection between the allegations on in his content on Rumble. We don't agree with the behavior of many Rumble creators, but we refuse to penalize them for actions that have nothing to do with our platform. Although it may be politically and socially easier for Rumble to join a cancel culture mob, doing so would be a violation of our company's values and mission. We emphatically reject the UK Parliament's demands. Let's see what this one is. Oh, this is the original one from Dame Caroline Dinenage, Chair Culture, Media and Sport Committee in the UK Parliament. Culture, Media and Sport Committee. And then Elon Musk also refused. Elon Musk also refused. It's okay, Casey. Casey had some dental work done today. A dame. So should we call potato Dame? Dame. The Dame potato. Potato says the Met Police even said in response to dispatches that if anyone has any complaints to report to them. No report. So no reports have come in? It's horrible, guys. It's absolutely horrible. I think it's totally unfair. And I just wanted to show you guys that media lies, dude. Like, look at this. You idiots. Then what the hell is going on here? What in the hell is going on here? Mail order weed is a real thing and it's amazing. Don't believe that. But look at this is the ads I get, guys. These are my ads. You guys want to see some more J ads? And then I have a video to go out with. It pisses me off because you know what? I'm nobody. I'm J is for Justice here with 136 viewers, and I was sued by a major corporation who has billions of dollars. Sued. I can't use any of their news clips, and they own 65% of the media. I'm nobody. This shit is not right. This shit is not right. At all. Just say no to mail order weed because it will get you probably put in jail. Just saying. So, there's Olive. There's Olive. All right, let me pull up our going out video because we are about done with this FriJAY. And I just want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this. Because this is important. And it's not just important because it's Russell Brand. I don't care about him personally. What I care about is what's happening and what I'm seeing. And I don't like it. And I'm glad that we're seeing it. I'm glad we're able to see it. I'm glad that there's ways for us to see it, if that makes sense. And I'm happy to show you when I find things like this, you know. So let's go and watch our going out video. This is I don't know who the creator is, but I'll tell you in 1 second. I had never heard of them before, but Shell found this yesterday. Wonderful. and it got buried, so I got to find it. But I want to thank you guys for watching today. And every Monday and Friday, we stream live at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm going to start dropping videos every Tuesday and Thursday. And that'll be our schedule, but I've got to get it all together. Shell, can you send me that video again? I can't find it. And this is one you don't want to miss. This is like my biggest fan. My biggest fan on YouTube is another YouTuber. His name's Gray Hughes. Oh, Potato made she made the meme better. That's awesome. Potato, can I show it on the stream? Can I show your meme? Or no? Do you want me to put it in Patreon? Oh, I found it. I found it. All right, so this is my biggest fan on YouTube. You may have seen him. He's been blocked for a while now. And this is thanks to crowdsourced Illuminations posted this. Crowdsourced Illuminations is to thank for this feature you're about to see. Now, I have my biggest fan on YouTube is a creator called Gray Hughes. He's trolled me on numerous occasions, and this video right here just could not be any better, okay? He has gray pubes. He has trolled me for years. But guess what? Karma is the best thing ever. So watch this. Gray Pubes decided to go out to Idaho. And he decided to go to the apartments right next to the 1122 King Road house, right? He's trying to be JLR. He's trying to do some JLR-ish, okay? This is just to give you a little bit of insight here. So let's go ahead and roll this footage. This is Gray Hughes approaching the apartments next to 1122 King Road to show his viewers the cameras.
And that's the camera right there. And it filmed right over there like that. So there it is.
Hey.
Oh, what? Oh,
What are you
geez.
doing?
Oh,
Give me that. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you
I'm not
doing?
going to give you my phone.
What are you doing? Who are you?
Wait, I'm lying. What are you
Who
doing?
are you?
What are you
Tell
going
me
to
who
do?
you are.
Wait, Gray Hughes is getting chased away by Beavis and Butthead's teacher, guys. Beavis and Butthead's teacher has scared the bejesus out of Gray Hughes. Let's watch that part again because that's the best. And then we'll let it play through.
So there it is.
Hey.
Oh, what? Oh,
What are you
geez.
doing?
Oh,
Give me that. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you
I'm not
doing?
going to give you my phone.
What are you doing? Who are you?
Wait, I'm lying. What are you
Who
doing?
are you?
What are you
Tell
going
me
to
who
do?
you are. Come here. Come here.
No.
What's wrong?
Well, what are you doing chasing me
Well, you're
around?
trespassing.
Well, I'm just walking on public.
No, it's not public. Posted right there. No trespassing.
Well, I came in over here, though.
Doesn't matter. That's not public.
Okay, well,
You
sorry.
know
about
this is private property.
that. Well, it's a parking lot.
No, that's parking
Why are you
lots
getting
are
really-
private property.
Why are you getting so close?
Because people like you keep turning all this crap into bullshit.
No, I'm doing
and
a true
harassing.
story.
No bullshit. You're harassing
Well,
everyone.
I'm doing it
Well, you're
the.
harassing me and my tenants
Well, I
by
apologize.
being here.
All right, I'll take it.
Get
All right.
out of here. What's your name?
Gray's menu.
What is it?
Gray.
Great.
Oh, don't worry about it.
He's like, Gray?
Gray.
Great. What's your last name?
Oh, don't worry about it.
Uh-huh. Hope again. You'll get arrested.
Okay. Gee, what a psycho. A lot of psycho
Who's
people over
Kane?
here, I'll tell you that.
Hear that nervous laugh? Oh, boy.
That was pretty crazy.
Oh, that was crazy.
Anyways, you could see where the surveillance camera was.
Yeah, we saw the surveillance camera.
There it is.
Hey,
Oh, what?
what
Oh,
the fuck you
geez.
doing?
Oh,
Give me that. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you
I'm not
doing?
going to give you my phone.
What are you doing?
What are you
Who are you?
Wait, I'm lying. What are you
Who
doing?
are you?
What are you
Tell
going
me
to
who
do?
you are.
who you are?
Come here.
No. I got.
What's wrong?
Well, what are you doing chasing
Well,
me
you're
around?
trespassing.
Well, I'm just walking on public.
No, it's not public. Posted right there. No trespassing.
Well, I came in over here, though.
Doesn't matter. That's not public.
Okay, well,
You
sorry.
know
about
this is private property.
that. Well, it's a parking lot.
No, that's parking
Why are you
lots
getting
are
really-
private property.
Why are you getting so close?
Because
you getting
people like you keep turning all this crap into bullshit
No, I'm doing
and
a true story.
harassing. No, bullshit. Here.
They've had it. Moscow has officially had it, guys. They are done. They are done with the cameras. They're done with the people walking around. They're done with the people hanging around by their houses. They are done. So I hope you enjoyed that. Happy FriJAY, guys. Friday, September 22nd. It's almost hard to believe that it is almost October, but we are doing a Halloween bash here. Get your costumes ready. We're going to have panel. You guys come up. We're going to do a costume contest. Get your costumes ready. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that is coming up. And I will see you guys on the flip side. Definitely on Monday, 3 p.m. Fridays at 3 p.m. And yes, I hope you enjoyed that. So let's roll our credits. Thank you again to Dimitri. It's always a pleasure. You guys go check his channel out. We're going to talk more next time about his experience interviewing and talking to the prosecutor of the OJ trial. He talked to Gil. So you guys can go check that interview out on his channel. And I will see you guys later. Have a good Friday. It's good to see you guys that just joined. Hey, Nicole. And you can have 2 Jennifers with a side of gray pubes. Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists for more true crime content. And if that's not enough, you can join our Patreon. Don't have a tinfoil hat? It's okay. We'll make you one. It's that easy. See you guys in the next video.
See you later. Bye.
I don't give a damn. I don't
La,
really
la,
care
la, la, la.
about you
You don't
and
hold
your
a camera.
problems. I don't give a damn.
Give him the full
You
answer.
talk way too much. I have heard enough.
You're
About you
bright-eyed
and
bushy
your
tail.
problems. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. Damn, 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 damn.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to friends, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got
Everybody does that,
time,
it's
I ain't
okay.
got time, I ain't got time for that. Staying up late, sleeping all day, dreaming about Cadillacs. Buying new shoes, hanging by the pool, sipping on Coke and Jack. Calling my phone when you feel alone, but I never call you back. 'Cause I ain't got
I don't want Jennifer or 2 Jennifers.
Thanks so much, Jennifer.
Bye, Jennifer.
It's in the water. What the f?
Thanks so much, Jennifer.
I don't want Jennifer
Bye,
or 2
Jennifer.
Jennifers.